All right, guys. Let's see how many of us are here. You know what? If you can hear me, please drop a message in the chat so that I can know that I have someone with me on the chat. Right? Drop a message so that we can kick off already. All right. So okay. So if you can hear me, drop a message in the chat so that we can start. Right? And you can also share the link on Discord. I don't think this was shared on Discord. I think this link should be shared on Discord so that those who will get the Discord notification will also join in. Right? We're going to be discussing Vue. We're going to be building a very simple login page, right? That would aid form submissions. Yeah, so if you know someone that needs to be in this session, go ahead and tag them in the WhatsApp group on the Discord server so that they can join us. Okay. All right. Let me see the chat. Okay, Christopher. Hi, Christopher. Yeah, so I think we can start. Right. So I'll go ahead and share my screen, and we are going to create a new Vue application, and we're also going to be doing some setup, right? So we can build our simple form. Okay, our simple login form. All right. So give me a minute. I will share my screen, and we are going to just create something very basic. Okay, very basic. All right. So I'm going to be sharing my screen right now. Let's see. Um, okay. All right. So do well to let me know if you can see my screen. It's coming up. Just give me a minute. I'm actually having a little bit of challenge sharing my screen. Give me a minute. Give me a minute. Okay, that's weird. Um, okay, let's try that again. Screen sharing, my entire screen. Okay, better. All right, so I believe you guys can see my screen right now. I have to zoom in on this so you can see it very well. I have my terminal opened up already, and I think I need to stop that music. Yeah, this is much better. Okay, so I have my terminal opened already, and we have a simple description of what we are going to be building, right? Right here. Okay, so I'm sure you can see my screen. So this is going to be a very simple Vue.js based sign up form demonstrating dynamic attributes binding, two-way data binding, and custom form submission handling without page reload. So we're going to be using what we call an event modifier, right? So basically this time around, a form event modifier. I'm going to show what that is and why you would find yourself using it on several locations. So I'm going to search for login. So we can get a very simple login page. So this is Figma components, of course. Um, so from what I can see, I think we have a sample here. Kindly give me 1 minute, please. Give me 1 minute. Real quick, I'll be back shortly. Just 1 minute. Yeah, so guys, apologies for that. Let's continue. So I'm going to simply take one of these, right? I'm just going to click on copy. We don't have to design something from scratch on this call, so we don't waste lots and lots of time. I'm just going to copy and paste, yeah, paste this here. I would even prefer to maybe put this in a different frame, maybe like a desktop frame here on Figma. All right, so I don't think I need everything, so we don't waste time. I'm going to take off some items such as the logo, some of these other options here. So we're just going to work with this, right? We're going to work with this. Okay, so we have admin login. We have these items are basically sitting in the center. All right, so this is what we're going to implement, and we're going to be pretty fast with that. As a matter of fact, we don't even need to put in all this validation, right? Just email with the field, password with the field, and then continue, right, or sign in. Okay, so we're not going to take too much time here. So admin login, welcome back, blah blah blah, and all that. Great. So let's go ahead and implement this, right? Yeah. So let's go ahead and implement this right away. All right. So I'm sure you guys remember how we. I would also prefer to share this. Hold on, so you can see my full screen. Okay. So hold on. Let me take off my picture from there so you can see. Okay, not that. Yeah. All right, so you can see the full screen. I think that works. Okay, so let's go back to the terminal. Um, all right. So remember, we already have a sample project we worked on the other time. So view, yeah. So I'm simply going to copy one of them. We don't really have to initialize a new one, right? So let's go to CLI CD, CLI examples. So you see I have, the previous blog we had worked on. We can just copy that. So I can say CP dash arrow, right? So yeah, let's put that in a new location. I'm going to call that 4, and we'll say sign up app, right? Okay, so now we have sign up app. All right, so let's go into sign up app. I'm going to open this up with VS Code, right? So I'm just going to say code, and of course, select that specific directory. Let me zoom in as well. So I'm sure you guys saw what I did there, but I'm just going to take that again. Maybe I was too fast, so let's go back one step. All right. So what I did was I came into this, directory, right, which is our view, 300 dev days view directory we had created already. We have some CDN examples, some CLI examples. If you don't have the code base, okay, yeah. So if you don't have the code base, you can grab that from GitHub. I remember sharing that on GitHub. So let's go back into the CLI examples. And by the way, if you don't have the code base, I think we can just git remote show origin. Yeah, so I have it right here. Okay, so that will be shared in the chat as well. For those of you that probably don't have that link. Yeah, so yeah, so I simply came in here and I entered the CLI examples. Let's clear this. So this is what we have in the CLI example. We have 1, 2, and 3. So all I did was duplicate 1, right, into a new folder that I call 4, which is the sign up app, right? In order to do that, you can simply copy, right? And we're doing a recursive call because that is a folder with a lot of items. So we're trying to take every single thing within the directory, okay? And then this is what we're trying to copy, right? The directory we're trying to copy, and then we assign a new name for our new for the copy of that for the copy that we're trying to create, basically. Okay, so that is basically how you perform a copy. If you're on a Linux, right, you can of course just open this up and do Control C and Control V if that works um, faster for you, especially those of us on Windows. Okay, yeah. So let's proceed now into the sign up form or the sign up app. And I said, okay, yeah, I think we already have this opened up on VS Code. So let's zoom in. Okay, let us zoom in. Right. Hope this is clear enough. All right. So I hope you can see my screen. Yeah, I have the source folder right here, public. So of course, you know the folder structure already. Um, yeah, let's go into app.view. All right, so app.view, we just tried out these examples the other day, right? So let's just go ahead and build our main project in here. Just a second. Just a second. I need to turn off notification on my mobile device. Awesome. All right. So we're just going to do this. Maybe I would also introduce, I guess we can introduce a component, right? So we can introduce a component here. Let's take off some of these components that we don't need. And we will only keep one. So we're going to have the sign up form itself as a component, right? So we probably don't need all these guys, right? So take off everything from there and let's create a new file. So we're going to call this file sign up form, right? So I think it can be sign up form.view. Okay. So this is where we're going to put in our HTML code for the sign up form. And of course, our style can come in here. And if we have any script, right, which we obviously would have, right? So that would come in here. We're using the options API. We're still discussing with the options API. I want us to be familiar with this before we get into working with the composition API. So yeah, we've not done anything here. Basically, let's just put a text that says sign up, right? So sign up form, so that we can import that into app.view. All right. So within the app.view, I'm going to take off some of these things that we're not going to be using for now. All right. Take off some of these items as well. So this is simply, yeah, so this is the main page. Let's give this a width of 100%, height of 100 VH, same background white, right? Take off H1 and all this stuff. Okay. And we have margin 0 auto. I'm simply going to put display of grid and place item center so that the component we put in here can sit, in the center. So this is where our sign up, yeah, not like that. So our sign up component will sit here, right? So let's just say sits here. So our sign up component is going to sit here. This is the main page. Yeah, and we can simply import. So we can say import sign up form, from components, right? Sign up form.view. So this is basically importing this component straight from our folder, our components folder right here. Okay. And then after importing, you also need to have the components section here just to mention the components that you've imported, right? Within the component object here. So this is exactly where you have to bring in components. Now you have the sign up form that will be rendered here. Let's go ahead and run this with npm run dev. Of course, before we run this, we can also make a little bit of adjustments. This is a new project, right? We just change a couple of things here and there. We can call this the sign up app. Let's make those changes, right? So sign up app, that's fine. Probably delete package.log.json, delete node module so we can do a fresh install, right? You don't need to do that, but we're just doing it. Okay. So now I'm going to go back to the terminal and I'm going to simply say npm install, right? So we can have a fresh installation of our packages. Okay, so this is currently running. I hope I've not done anything extremely confusing to you. If I have, please go ahead and drop a message in the chat so we can attend to your questions before we move on to the next step. All right, so yeah, I was disconnected for a while, but I'm back. I hope we can still hear me. I'm trying to confirm that. So please, Zadik, I know you're backstage. If you can hear me, do let me know, right? Because I am not certain. Okay, trying to verify this from here. Okay, give me a minute. Let me stop sharing first so I can, check properly. Um, okay, if you can hear me, drop a message in the chat so we can proceed. If you can hear me, drop a message in the chat. Let me quickly switch my network provider so I can, yeah. So give me a minute, guys. I'm going to switch my network provider real quick. Just 1 minute and we'll proceed with our session, okay? Just 1 minute. Thank you. All right, so I think this is much better. Apologies, right? Yeah, so I just switched the provider now. I think there's a bit of noise coming from my background. Okay, I think this is much better. Apologies. I'm sharing my screen again. Let's go again. All right, so yeah, please let me know once you can see my screen. Um, let's see. Coming up, coming up, coming up. All right. I don't know if you guys are also having this challenge with your MTN and Airtel providers. I mean, it's crazy over here. Let's share. Let's share again. Even sharing my screen seems to be a problem. Okay, so I'm sharing the screen one more time. Just let me know if you can see my screen. Thank you. Oh, okay. Okay, I think it's up, right? Zedek, please let me know in the chat if you can see my screen. So let's go back to our code, right? I think we're about to run this. So we ran the command npm install, right? So we have successfully installed the packages. And of course, you can verify that, you're going to see node modules here, right? And it says, package were installed, right? Okay. So we can simply do npm run dev. And yeah, I mean, some of these scripts, you can alter them. I think someone actually raised that question. So if you check the package.json, you see we're basically running dev, okay? You can actually change what you want this to be called, right? This serve, you can change that, okay? So dev is the default, right? This uses bits, right? You can use build for building this, preview for, running that command. You can add your own script if you want to, right? Let's assume you have a script that maybe you have a bash script, and this might be too much, but just for example, you have a runme.sh, a bash script, a custom script you run. Maybe that script is for doing something like git add all, right? Just to add everything you have, and maybe you also want it to perform git commit and take some arguments, right? Or we just want to add our own commit statement here. So committing to Git, right? And maybe push to perform that push. So if you have this command, this kind of command, and you want to run this as a script, but you want to use an npm command to run this, you can include maybe Git, right? And I mean, this is weird, but yes, you can do this. You can also call that particular file, which is runme.sh. Is that correct? Runme.sh. Yeah. So you can add your own script if you want to do that. Okay. That is just an heads up. We're also going to, probably do something like this in the future. So yeah, I would also go ahead and explain that again. So let's take that file off for now, and we are simply going to run npm run dev. Yes. Okay. So this is going to execute our projects, and yeah, we're given this this URL right on our local host running on port 5173. So this is what you can basically open in your browser. All right, so you see we have the sign up form, which is pretty much what we have in the components, right? So we imported the component here, presented that component. If we add a different item to say our component is rendered above, you're also going to see that, right? So let's save. Maybe I have to refresh, and I really don't like refreshing here and there, but I kind of noticed that. Oh, it's down here. Okay, we centered this particular item. So this is more like if we probably put a div, then that would sit together. Let's save that. Maybe we have to refresh again. Okay, so that is not sitting together. So we added the display grid place item center. Okay, margin 0 auto. Maybe the height, is that the problem? Okay, so yeah, it was the height. Yeah, let's go ahead and just continue our work on the sign up form. So this is the sign up form, and we're going to include, our form. We don't have a specific class for now, right? But then let's just go ahead and put in the major items we need. So right here we have the sign up form. Let's look at our design. So we have admin login, welcome block. Okay, so let's copy this. So that's welcome back. All right. So let's come back here in the form. We're simply going to say welcome back, blah blah blah. We have h2 admin login save. All right, so that is what we have here. Let's take off main from here. Instead, let's put div, Control C, Control V. All right, so we have the div, and we did not really put in like margins and those kind of options, right? We did not do that, but yes, we can just say we have a class and call this class sign up form because we want to set the max width. Okay, so we can just set a max width, which is not, very necessary, but I just want to have 300 px. Okay. And for these items, sign up form H2, so I can just go ahead and, I mean, I will not style this way. I'll prefer to have some utility styles like margin bottom, margin top, padding and all those kind of stuff. But this actually does the job, so I can just say margin bottom, and I can have probably one EM. Maybe that's too much. Let's do 5 or 8 PX. I'm not following the exact style because we don't really have enough time to do that. So let's also do the styling for the P, and I'm going to follow the same the same space, right? So this is pretty fast the way I'm moving from one screen to the other, right? But I think you pretty much get what is going on here. So we have the H2, which is what we use in representing the text that we have on our Figma design. We have the P tag, and of course you can select and get the color. So oh yeah, so dev mode is page. So yeah, let's just get the manual thing from here. Let's do the color, put that color. Remember that is an X color, so let's save that, and we will get the color that we're looking for, right? So let's not even focus too much on the color. Let's just jump in here and put in the email, the password, and the button. Okay, so I'm going to come back here into the form, right? I'm going to put a label. Okay, the label is going to point at email, so let's call that email address. All right, I'm going to put that in a div as well because I want it to be seen as its own container, right? So you can call it a form group. If you have used Bootstrap, then of course you have seen patterns like this before. So let's have the input. This is going to be a type of email. If I have a placeholder that says hello at example.c. So let's copy and paste in here. All right, so that is the type, the placeholder, and of course our ID. So you can include the ID, right? Email. You can also include the name of email. Okay. So this is specifically for um, the email input field. Now let's look at our browser. Let's see what we have. So you see, this is what we have. It's not really the way we want it to be, right? Looking at the style we have on Figma. So we have to style input, right? We also have to ensure that our form group has a display of grid, right, with a gap of 4px, and that is just an assumption, by the way. Yeah, so can we do that in here? Yes, we can, but I would always prefer to have a style for managing forms. So we can have form.css, and then we can bring in form.css into the base file, right, or into the main file. I think we can do that. Let's bring that into the main file. Yeah, so we probably want to do this. Let's see, where do we have our main file? So css form.css. Okay, good. So now we have form.css in here. Let's go ahead and do some styling. So we have form. We're going to style the form itself for now. So let's just do, I can just add a background white. Okay, not very necessary. Probably I want to add a padding of 15px. Okay, so our form, what's that? Let's go back to our design. Let's see, I think we called it form group. So we called it form group. I'm going to style the form group. All right. And I'm going to simply say display of grid and a gap of 4px. So let's go back to our browser to see what we have. So you see that is what we have. Right. Okay. So remember we added a padding, right? So because we added the padding, that's why we're getting this space here. But this item is not sitting within that padding. So I think what we prefer to do is maybe take off that padding for now so we can have that alignment, right? Looking at our design as well, we have more space. Okay, so we can go back to our code, go back to the sign up form, right? Probably include a div here, and we can call this the form header. So by the way, this is just the way I choose to structure this, right? There's so many ways you can structure this that would make sense. I just like to make sure that things that are meant to stay together should stay together. Things that are meant to be apart should be apart. So for the form header, I am simply going to style that and put additional space. So margin bottom, right? You can add this as inline style, by the way, it doesn't matter. So let's do 1 EM so we can have more space, maybe 2 EM. All right, so let's see the amount of space we have. That's pretty fine. Let's go back to the form.css and style our inputs, right? So we're going to style the input field itself, and you can do that. So when you are styling the inputs, you can simply select the type, right, that you are trying to style. All right, so you can select the type, but let me see if I can probably just select all the type I have here. So I am going to work with let's see, what do I have here? I'm going to work with the email and then password. All right, so email and password. Let's come back. So I'm going to do form input, and then I'm going to do type. I think it's, if I'm not making a mistake, is it type? I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'll have to verify this. I don't think this is valid anyways. So give me a minute to verify this. And of course, we can do that via Google. So let's say form style, CSS style, form inputs, right? That makes more sense. Form input, CSS style. All right. So I haven't done this in a while though. Let's check. Let us see how you style that. If it's the type. For some weird reasons, I can't remember. So let's check out W3 School. I think that we'll get our answer from there. Let us see how that is done. All right, so let's scroll down. Oh, it is type. Okay, makes sense. So, I mean, that was correct. Okay, let's go back to our project. Okay, so type of email. Remember, we have two types, by the way, right? So I think what we can do is if we have specific styling for the email, then we can do that, right? But for now, let's just add general, maybe height of I don't know, 42px. Maybe that is too much. Okay, let's do some padding, or maybe we can just do padding instead of height. think that also works, right? So probably 16px. Okay. Border. Okay, now let's copy some style from Figma, right? So I'm just going to get like the border. I think the border radius should be 4 from what I'm seeing. Yeah, 4. And then this is the color of that stroke. So let's just do border 1px solid this hexadecimal, by the way. So hexadecimal, and I'll do a border radius of 4px. Okay, so let's see what we have. So this is what we have. We don't really have like a specific styling for our texts here. So that is 14. We're not bringing a different font, so we're going to stick to the font that we have. So let's just say font size 14px. All right, so I think that's all I'm going to do. So we have email, right? Yeah, and we also need password. So let's come back to our components. So this is for email. You can also signify to say email address. So I usually do this when I'm coding so that it will be easy for someone to track, the specific fields. So let's do this for password. You can just say password field. It's not necessary, by the way. It depends on, the team you're working with. So password, copy, paste, right? And also paste here. So this is type of password. We don't really need a placeholder in there. Okay, so let's just take off the placeholder. So now we have these two. We also need one last item. That one probably does not need a form group, right? That is just input. That is input type of submit, right? And of course, you can use a button. Let's stick with submit. And then the value. Um, so I'm going to use a value. Oh, by the way, I forgot to change this to password. It should be password. So I'm going to use a value of, I think it's sign up. Let's confirm that. Let's confirm that. Sign in. Sorry. Sign in. And it's not together. Okay, so that's a value of sign in. All right. So you see, we don't really have like that gap in between these items, right? So if we go back to the form.css, we can simply do that from here. Yeah, we can do that from here. So we can just say, give us a display of grid and give us a gap of the 16px, right? So we can get that gap, okay, of 24px. I think that's too much, but that works. Okay, so we don't really have an item in here, but at least it's a password field. Um, yeah, and one thing I would usually do is to first take off my border before styling it myself. That is none, okay, before styling it myself. And then for the button, I can just go ahead and specify that input type of submit, right? So submit. I don't know if I even need that quote, I doubt. But let's just add a background color. That is if this is our primary color, but we're not really going to spend time trying to figure that out. Let's just select this and grab the color from here. So this is 04785. Is that? Yeah, that's correct. Okay, so that's all we need for now from our Figma file. I think we can, safely just quit Figma. We are not going to be getting anything from there anymore. So let's go into this into our code, and I would say background color. It's a decimal color of, yeah. Okay, so let's check. That is what we have. Let's also put in the color of the text, which should be white, right? So let's close this and let's say color of white. Okay, so yes, for now this is fine. We are going to ensure that when we click on this, it doesn't refresh the page like it's doing right now. And that is where the event modifier comes in, right? So by default, it's trying to perform that, post action. It's trying to perform an action by default. Um, so we need to take off that action. So let's go back into our code. And in order to take off the action, we need that event modifier that I mentioned earlier, which is within the sign up form, of course. So we're going to say at submit, right? And this is a short form of saying v on submit, right? Which is the yeah. So instead of saying v on, right, that I've, like what I've mentioned before, so you have like v on, okay. So instead of using v on, you just use at, which is a short form. and we can say submit.prevent. Now, this is the modifier that would ensure that it doesn't refresh when you click on the button. We don't have the function just yet, but I'm going to include that. Let's call it the submit request, or let's just call it the sign up. Is it sign up or sign? Oh, sign in. All right. So sign in. So that's going to be the sign in function. All right. So let's just create that function as well. That's a method. Okay. So we have methods. We have sign in, and we're just going to say alert. Um, I was clicked. All right. So that's a method. Okay, so when you click on this, that is going to happen. Now you can choose to also make sure that these are required, just in case someone probably might have forgotten to, click on that. Okay, so let's go with the option required for both of them. All right, so if you don't enter the field and you click on submit, this is going to tell you, please fill in this field. Okay, for the button, I'm also going to set a cursor. Yeah, let's just say cursor pointer, so that at least we're sure that when we hover on this, we get that pointer, cursor type here. Okay. So if we put in the email, I have my sample email here. Let's just use me at solomonmarvel.com. So you see, it also tells us to put in the password. I'll put in the password and we have that. We click and it tells us I was clicked, which is the function that we had created earlier. Okay. So I hope that makes sense. For now, we're not actually accepting these fields just yet. So we need to accept, the values that come in from the email and the password field, right? Let's go back to our code. Let's jump into the sign up form components. And what we are going to do right now is we're going to include a data section here. So this is data, and we're going to also return the values. So I can call these values maybe user info, right? Or credentials. And now credentials can be an object. It can have the email and the password field in here. So email, which is by default null, right? So of course you can use null, okay, and password, which is also null. So by default it is null, okay. The idea is I think I have to put a comma here. Yes. So the idea is by the time you put in the email, it is going to indicate that you are actually trying to put in the email. So in order to track that, we have to use the V model right here. Okay. So I'm going to use the V model. Let's see. Sometimes I wait for IntelliSense to correct me. Sometimes I just, you know, I mean, especially when I use VS Code, I'm a bit lazy when I'm using VS Code. So yeah, so I have V model. I can simply put credentials dot email. Did I put email there or username? Hope I did not make a mistake. Yeah, email. That's correct. And I am also going to use the same thing. I'm going to do the V model dot credential dot password. Correct. So yes dot password. So just to verify as well, this is credentials. I hope that's exactly what we have. That is it. So now we have credentials with email, credentials with password. Um, let's take a look at, if we can capture those values here. So when I click on sign in, I want to get the email and the password. Of course, I can just, put that in here using the template string, right? So I can simply say we have email. Of course, that should sit like this, and password. Now remember, you have to grab that from this.credentials.password, and then you also have this.credentials.email, right? Um, okay, so let's just grab the email and the password and just test if that is actually visible. So random password, click on sign in. So you see I have my email and the password I entered. Okay, so that is working, and we can also choose to bind this outside just for you to see that it works, right? So just to test that binding, I can simply add maybe a p tag here. So I can say email is this this dot credential creden do I really need this? I don't think so. So credentials dot email, right? And password, so credentials and password, so that is password. what? Okay, so at least with that, you can see that level of reactivity when I put in the email, for example, me@solomonmarvel.com. I put in a crazy password here. You see, we can actually see those items, right? I click on sign in, you can see those actions. So basically, we have a component that is reusable, okay, and that makes sense. That makes sense to us because depending on where we want to use this, if it's a different type of component, of course, I mean, it doesn't make sense to have double sign-up forms. Although this gives us the ability to have double sign-up forms, right? Just by duplicating that imported component, right? So it depends on what you're trying to achieve. But the point is, it is a component that we've wrapped inside the app.view file. And yeah, while we make those adjustments in here, it is rendered, on our web page, and we can also track, the information that we put in using the V model to bind that particular value, right, to the input field. So when we're making those changes, it is changed on any other place, right, that is binded to on the DOM at the moment, right? So, I mean, there are so many other advanced things to learn, advanced patterns, but yes, this is, more like a way to understand this simple concept, right? And if you have a backend where you have to send this to, we are going to learn how to do that in one of our classes, right? Sending this request to a backend. We don't have a backend here, but in this case, we might decide to explore tools like Axios, right? Or the fetch, basically we can even use fetch, directly from Node. So what we do is we bundle the email, the password, put that in a JSON object, right? So I can simply grab the email. So let's just say let email equals. As a matter of fact, I can grab the full credential. I can simply say let credential. Now it depends on how you are trying to send this item to the backend. It's usually you are going to see yourself sending the email and the password, not necessarily with the credential object. So we can probably just say let email equals this dot credential dot email, and we can also say let's password equals this dot credentials dot password. Okay, so then we can choose to just JSONify the whole thing, right? Yeah, you can choose to JSONify the whole thing. Put that in a new object here, JSONify it. And what I was trying to mention earlier, you can also grab the credentials directly, right? So you can grab the credentials itself and probably JSONify the credential. Not necessary, right, to do that, but yes, you can do that by just saying maybe console.log. I think it's let's see, JSON.stringify, okay, credentials. Okay, so we're going to log this. We're not sending it to a backend server just yet because we don't have one, at least not for this example. So if I put in the email, once again, I put in the password. Let's check the console. So let's check the console. Okay. All right. So I think that's basically it for this view session. If you have any questions as regards what is it called, asynchronous JavaScript, feel free to ask your questions in the chat. I believe we've covered that. I've covered that twice, right? So if I click on this button, you see we have email and password right here um, as a stringified object, right? As a stringified value, right, in our console. Okay. So if you have any questions on what I've done so far, on asynchronous JavaScript as well, you can mention. I'm just going to show an example of, let's see, can I get to fetch a sample item from maybe JSON placeholder? So let's search for JSON placeholder. Okay. Yeah, I think we can. Let's see, what do we have here? Okay. All right, so this is an example when I mentioned using fetch to make a request, right? So you see, we're basically making this is a get request, right? Trying to fetch some items from here. We also have some other resources, users, for example. So all we need to do is grab this URL and make that request, right? If I click on this, for example, you can always test. Now, remember, from your terminal, if if you're using a Debian-based operating system like Linux, like Ubuntu, or maybe you're using a Mac, you can actually use curl to just test. Now, if you're not using this like a Mac or Linux, I believe you can also install curl on Windows. If you use Git Bash or maybe Commander, or you're using your Linux subsystem, I believe you should be able to set up call and use it, right, to test. So we're just making a call to an API service, and we're, sorry, and we're able to grab, excuse me, and we're able to grab, some of this information from that service. So basically, we can also, make like a post request, right? But not to this particular service. We don't have an endpoint for that. So an endpoint is basically, that URL string that contains the base URL. So for example, this is the base URL. When I say base URL, this is what I mean. So this is the base URL, right? And then this is the resource we are consuming. We are going to look into this in our backend. When we start covering a little bit of backend, you will get to understand this better, right? So this is base URL. This is the resource. Okay. So I think that would be all because we do not necessarily need to. Okay, so I can see there's a question there. Sir, can you please try to add an image to the web page with view? Because I was, oh yeah, okay, let's do that. Let's do that. Adding an image to the web page with view, we can simply, let's include a logo, right? Let's just include a logo. I think I have like some sample logo images on my laptop. So let's check. If I go to picture, yeah, pictures, businesses, I guess, maybe, let's see, top universe. Okay, top universe. Let's open that up. Okay, so I just have a bunch of images there. Let's add this one, right? So this is tray.webbp. Okay, so I'm going to, I think I probably mistakenly just double clicked on that. So we don't need to, yeah, let's quit, force quit. So let's bring this image in here. I'm going to bring that image into our assets folder. Okay, so we have the assets folder. Let's create a new folder here called images. All right, so I have images, and I'm going to bring that image into that folder that I just created called images. Okay, let's go ahead and bring that image. So I'm just going to drag and paste. Okay, let's just drag and drop. So I have tray.webbp in there. Okay, so the image have been added to our folder. Let's go ahead and put it on the sign up form. Right, I'm just going to drop it maybe even as a background, but I mean, you can do that if you want it to be a background, but let's just import properly into like an image tag. Maybe that's what you're trying to do. Okay, so I am simply going to put in the image src, all right, equals, okay, and of course I can also have like alt woman sitting in front of the laptop, or woman, okay, let's just say person. Yeah, that's fine. Let's not waste time there. So I can use the @ sign here. Okay, so at assets, images, tray.webbp. We can also import, right? In some meta frameworks like Nox, you have to import. I don't think this would work there, but so let's see if this, yeah, so this can actually bring in the image. So you see we have the image. Of course, it's quite big, right? Probably too big even, okay? So we can use our styling to, fix that, of course. But yes, this is how you bring in the image, right? So when you say art, this is a better way rather than, trying to get the relative parts or the absolute part, by the way. So I mean the absolute part. So let's just go ahead and use art. So this gives us our image. You can also choose to import and then put that value in here. So you can actually import this. So if I just copy this, let's call this image, and then we're trying to, yeah, so we have to use this pattern because we're trying to bind that image basically, right? So that is how you do vbind. We're trying to bind that image, so we have to import, let's call image from, right? And then we'll put the parts that we're trying to bring that image from. Okay, so you do it this way, and of course you have to also include that in the data, right? So you have to put a comma. Let's just put image, image, right? It can be something else. Maybe you have image one here, image one here, but then this is what we are trying to then pass as our image name. When you pass this, it's going to grab this item which is already imported here. Okay, so yes, you can also do it this way. If you want to import and bind that image to your UI. So you see, we still have the image rendered here. I hope that makes sense. Obasi Kechuko, I hope that answers your question. Yeah. So pretty much, this is how you import images, and of course, how you work with Vue for something as simple as binding your input fields and also performing that action with the submit input type while ensuring that it doesn't refresh the page while you're performing that action using the dot prevent event modifier. So yes, I hope that makes sense. I hope you learned something this evening. I'll see you guys again on Monday, right? So we'll continue with our Vue training. We're actually going to build a couple of things, right? A lot of amazing stuffs. I'll try as much as possible to keep it simple and also intuitive, okay? Especially for some of you that are just starting out. If you did not watch the videos from the last class, I think you should go back and watch those videos so it will be easy for you to follow along, right? I also shared the link to the GitHub repository, so do well to clone that repository, right? You can also follow me. Give me a follow on GitHub. I would really appreciate that. Have a wonderful evening, guys, and I'll see you next time. All right, have fun. Yeah, bye.